It's my pleasure to welcome all the participants today in the session 2 for the 5th Global Digital Marketing Summit. I welcome all the delegate speakers and guests from all over the country from different walks of life who have come here to share their knowledge and vast experience with global community in the theme. The next big digital marketing, rethink into the inevitable. We are also proud to announce that this year conference is being conducted along with the cooperation of associated partners, the IBIS, Digital Marketing, Skill Institute, and our media partners, World Economic Magazine and International Business Magazine. Myself, Dr. Rakesh, from academic background in Texila Consortium, and I'm just warmly welcome Ms. Val for the next keynote speaker on the topic of forum and function, tailoring content for your brand strategy. So about Ms. Val. Ms. Val, a feminist Latina who thrives on creating a new futures in the intersection among creativity, technology, and education. Over to you, Ms. Val.
Thank you so much. And good afternoon to you. Good morning here. We're in Mexico City. It's 6:30 a.m. So it's a pleasure to start my morning with you. Thank you to the people who's been joining the whole day. I know you are coming from a break, so I hope you had a good reset and come back with more energy to close this final set of speakers at the International Conference of Global Digital Marketing Summit 2022.
Yes.
I want to take some time to thank the production team for inviting me. And again, thank you for the people that are here to share some knowledge.
Thanks for participating in 5th GDMS, ma'am.
Cool, let's start then. I'm gonna share my screen.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay.
Good.
So, form and function. First of all, let's go through the agenda of this very short meeting we're gonna have. We're going to go through a little introduction of myself. We can talk about then what the content is nowadays, which is Texila King. Then we're going to briefly talk about value exchange to go into the form and function of that exchange. And then if we have some time left, we can have some Q&A. Okay, so who am I? My name is Anzaldo. I'm a creator manager at LinkedIn. I have close to 15 years of experience working with digital content in different formats. I started my career in the digital media landscape as an artist, doing digital collage and glitching images. Then I moved into advertising world, working with agencies like Leo Burnett, Isobar, or Media Monks, leading brands such as Nestlé, Sony, and Netflix. Then I entered the editorial world, working with Vice Media, and then the podcast industry with Spotify. And right now, as I mentioned, I'm working with creators at LinkedIn in the Mexican region. So I have a vast experience in content production, marketing, and communications. And today, I want to share with you a few learnings that I've had throughout these years so you can leverage your content when creating your brand strategy. When I say brand, this can mean your enterprise or even yourself, depending on each case. So I said I'm from Mexico. I would love to see if you can share in the chat. Where are you joining from? Just curious. So let's start. Content is still king. So I'm a dropout. When I was a student, none of the current careers around social media or digital marketing existed. So I basically built my own education in spaces like this on the web, and the constant message I kept finding was content is king. And I still find that true until today. So what is content? What do we understand by content? Nowadays, content is basically any information you put out there under your brand's name. This means the description on an Instagram profile, the email subject you put on your newsletters, or even the copy on your TikTok video. Every narrative counts. This is super important to keep in mind. Anything you put out there needs to be efficient. Don't waste your time and resources. Nowadays, attention spans are shorter, but this is also a consequence of poor content out there. So be mindful about the value exchange you are creating. Many people think that creating content is just writing stuff, recording stuff, and putting it out there. But it's not just that. You need to understand what is the value exchange you are creating with your customer, your consumer, whoever is in the other end of your platform. There's also another thing that you need to keep in mind. Whenever you are segmenting your audience is also segmenting you. Let's put an example. Costco. We all know Costco, this big brand where people go and buy stuff in big volume. Costco originally thought itself as a place where people with low income could buy a lot of one product in small fees with less money. So this was meant for people with low income. But when you go to Costco, you can find cars like a Mercedes or maybe a BMW, which are not necessarily from low income people. Why are they there if they are not the target? They are there because Costco is the target for these people, not the other way around. What this means is that people with money go to Costco because they can buy a lot of stuff with less money and they can save that way. So even though these people with money are not the main target from Costco, they are still a target and a very important one because those are the ones that keep the flow of the money going. So you need to keep in mind your value exchange, and it happens both ways. You are segmenting your audience, but your audience is also segmenting you. So let's go to the value exchange. Okay. The value exchange is quite easy. Let's think about how you can bring value to your audience. I've segmented this in 5 points to give you like a little index on how you can develop your content. But this is not set on stone. This is just a guide for you, and then you can expand it. So the first one is news and insight. Think about what are the trends happening in your industry. What are the news out there? What are the insights you can give from your uniquely position, maybe at an enterprise, at an industry, at your entrepreneurship? There's always some unique point of view you can share. Or you can give your opinion on some news. Which are the new developments? Are they gonna be worth it? Are they gonna be maybe a waste of time? Are they gonna be useful for your industry? Maybe they are meant for one, but they are really useful for another. So set yourself as an expert in each industry by sharing insights, news, and even your opinions. And if you feel comfortable giving opinion, maybe you can go and give some advice. Maybe you can mentor some people. If you have a long career, maybe you can share which were your first knowledge in this industry. Maybe you can share which were your first mistakes also. It depends on what is your own story. Let me make this bigger because I can see it's not complete. There you go. So make yourself comfortable at giving advice, because that way you're going to position yourself as an expert in this industry or in this topic. If you don't want to do that, maybe you can go on the safe side, quote unquote, the safe side. This means talking about product and services. This is just, what does your product do? How does it look? What does it does? And that's it. Let's talk about what you're selling. This is like the minimum effort. I don't recommend to go just with this one, you need to back it up with at least a couple of the other narratives from this vibe. And also, as I mentioned before, you can expand it. This is just a little index to give you some idea on where can you start. Now that you've talked about product and services, we can talk about what happens behind the scenes. How do we get things done? When do we have fun doing this? Where are the challenges we are facing when creating this? Where's the feedback from the people going into our product? How are we listening to our audiences? Let's bring people behind the scenes. Let's take away the gatekeepers of the information and bring the information flow back to the audiences. Show what's behind, and that way you will bring and you will create a closer relationship with your audience. Besides, who doesn't love a behind the scenes? And the last but not the least one is personal experiences. Personal experiences are unique point of views. The value on those personal experiences is being authentic. Do not try to make it fancier. If it's muddy, it's muddy and it's real. Keep it that way. Keep it authentic, because that is the way you're going to connect to your audience. Yes, you need to be professional on the way you communicate. You do need to have a communication strategy to use the right words, the right length, and the right amount of strength in your message, but keep it authentic. Maybe right now you are in a position of success, but maybe it wasn't like that always. Maybe you come from the bottom, as they say. That's pure knowledge that you can share with people. Nowadays, we live in an era where there's a lot of entertainment. There's a platform, specifically one platform in social media who's taking everyone's attention in short format videos. So people are there a lot of time, but it doesn't necessarily mean they are gaining some knowledge or that they are doing something useful with their time. So there's also a value exchange in that. Be useful to people. Give them something in return. And now that we've talked about that, we can go to the form and the function. Okay, so form and function. Do what makes sense. Know what everyone else is doing. And I want to take a pause here to give like a little story time in the podcast industry in Mexico specifically. So when I worked at Spotify a couple of years ago, the podcast industry was the new kid on the block. It was the cool kid. Everyone thought the format was super awesome and everyone was getting on board, even though the format had been around for more than a decade. The narrative out there was that the audio-only format would explode. People started recording podcasts in all shapes and sizes. All of a sudden, everyone had a podcast. We were like back in the 90s when everyone had like a garage band. Right now, 2 years ago, everyone was a podcaster. And that created a certain FOMO, which worked perfectly for Spotify, of course, because we were building our catalog. The volume of the content was suddenly growing exponentially. It worked perfectly for us. But on the other side, on the creator's side, it wasn't working that much, because the reality was that the real consumption happened only in the 10% or less of the full catalog. This means that we had thousands and thousands of podcasts that were not heard by a significant number of people. So again, as I said, this was a win for Spotify, but it was a loss of resources and time for some creators. So the lesson here is, again, do what makes sense, not what everyone else is doing. create the routes to your message, but create the routes that are useful to your situation. If you are a reporter, an investigator, maybe you do need a podcast to put out there all that heavy information that in other way, maybe in a written way, people are not gonna access to that. So maybe there's some sense in making a podcast to give like an easier intro, an easy way in to the information. But if you're doing a podcast just to do it because everyone else is doing it, maybe you should think twice. And the same goes with other formats. You want to do video series or short format videos, you need to think that real hard. Think about your specific situation. Do you need to be on every social media channel, or can you stay in a couple of them and actually feed them constantly? Because being there constantly, showing up constantly and consistently is key to succeed in the content economy. So answer these questions because before you go out there. Which channel makes more sense to your brand? Where is the place where people are going to go and look for you? Let's say you have some service downtown. Does it make sense that you actually have a full website built for you? Or does it make more sense to just put your enterprise or your business on Google Maps and let the people do the talking? Maybe it's just easier and it makes more sense. Set your business on Google Maps and reward your customer if they leave an honest review. Do use your resources in strategic ways. Be mindful that content is super flexible. Right now, we have a lot of formats available. 10, 15 years ago, it was not the same story. We only had like blog entries, or we had maybe Facebook was starting, High Five, MySpace, and people weren't really there to consume content. They were like to talk to each other. So right now, the content is flexible. It can be written, it can be heard, or it can be even experienced. If you create experiences for people, that is also content. So use that to your advantage. Be strategic and be creative. Those are the two main pillars of content in the digital workspace. So I want to talk about another example, Vice Media. I think most of the people know what Vice is. Vice is a magazine, Canadian magazine, started as a magazine, and then it went super famous as a blog. It got really strong, talking about partying, drugs, political issues, subcultures, and they really established their name through blog entries, creating a website at the place you had to go to if you wanted to know what was going on, like a decade ago. So it started as a magazine, went famous as a blog, but it really got strong globally with documentaries, with videos. And that's where they settled their name. But then they tried and failed when trying with podcasts. They tried doing their original content. They tried working hand in hand with Spotify, but podcasts didn't work for them. And also, they were closing their offices globally. They were only leaving the US and a few other offices open. So they were going through a lot of changes. They closed the website. They closed many assets, digital assets and channels that they had. But they survived on the video format. They don't no longer do like long documentaries like they used to do. but they are still doing little short documentaries that they put on their social media, on Instagram. So now they are not paying 10 to 20 contributors per month to keep a website alive. Now they have shortened this to 5, maybe 10 contributors a month, and they are doing short format video on social media, whether to TikTok, whether to Instagram or YouTube. No more website, no more magazine. So lesson here is adapt. Adapt yourself to the new media. Be bold, be strategic, and be creative. Try to frame the information on the right way and keep this in mind. And this is, I would like to close with this quote. The way you frame the information affects the way it's perceived. So if you want people not to get bored, keep it short. If you know people is going to have the time to go through a lot of information, make it long. If you are not sure, then do A/B testing. Be creative, be strategic, and be bold. So I'm going to stop here. I want to see if there are some questions from the audience.
Thank you, Ms. Val. And here we go with some questions. So we received some questions like, what are the core values and the attributes on brand should express?
I'm sorry, on brand what?
What are the core values and the attributes in brand should express?
Well, the core attributes and values depend on each brand. I think, it's different to talk about, let's say, Patagonia, which recently donated basically the whole company to climate change. So their core values should be sustainability. But we can't say the same for maybe BMW. BMW might be maybe comfort. So you need to find which are your core strengths. There is no single formula. And there's also one phenomenon happening right now, which is the creator economy. So before we come from an era, maybe from a TV era, where we had maybe 12 to 50 channels if you had some cable in your home, and that was it. Right now, the channels are endless. And that means that people are out there putting themselves also as brands. So things are really flexible right now. I would recommend maintaining your focus on being consistent and coherent all the way with your brand. Like if you say you are something, if you say you are committed to something, keep that message coherent through all your social channels, through all your communication. For as small as they are, be coherent and take every chance that you have to reinforce that message, to reinforce that constancy. Let me give you an example. In Mexico, we have this new credit card called NU, N-U, which is basically winning all the traditional banking media outlets. They are being left behind. And this is not only because of the easy accessibility to the credit card, it's also because this is focused on Gen Z and millennials. So all the people that is around 30 to 35 that somehow had some banking problem in the past, but now they are functional adults who can pay bills, who pay a rent, who pay services, etc., but can't access a credit card because of their history, are now being able to access that card thanks to the marketing accessibility that they have. But also the young people that have no credit history are struggling getting a credit card from traditional banks, but they are getting it on Nubank. But why are they reaching new, right? Like if they have reached other banks, why are they still trying with new? Well, it's because new has a very friendly communication, like a very out of the traditional set, like peer-to-peer communication. And this gives you a sense of closeness. Like this team knows what I'm going through. They understand what my needs are. And not only that, once you get your credit card, it arrives to your home in a little package. Like it's really cute and it has stickers and it's really like out of the ordinary. When you get a credit card from a traditional bank, you get a white envelope, a printed sheet with your name, your data, and your card pasted there, and that's it. Pretty traditional, just the way your parents received their credit cards. What New is doing is giving you a whole experience. You get a cute little envelope, which is purple. You have stickers to brand your computer, your bike, your car, wherever you want to put it. And also you get this little card with a message and an illustration saying that they count on you and that you are super valuable. So they are creating communication and experience. And they are keeping truth to their core values. So it depends on which is your industry. The key here is to keep constant and coherent. Now that you are being strategic, that means being strategic. Keep that coherence along your communications and be creative. It doesn't always have to be a text message. You can do recordings and it doesn't always have to be a human in front of the camera. Maybe you can use a puppet. Maybe you can use stop motion. Be creative and be resourceful. Talk to the people around you and see what resources you can create on your own. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Ms. Val. And we have another question. What are the key points to achieve a new branding or rebranding?
I would recommend, first of all, analyzing the situation, why you want to rebrand. Once you have that answer, do keep the valuable information, like something valuable. Don't start fresh, like a fresh start. I would recommend like bring something valuable and build from there. If you need to rebrand, I think the most important thing here is understand or listening to your audience. Maybe you have a business case to rebrand and it makes sense on your business side, but take the opportunity to listen to your audiences because social media became like a customer service channel and people are talking about you there. Use that tool to leverage your rebranding. There's a lot around rebranding that you need to know, like storytelling. If you need to rebrand, maybe you need to understand storytelling, like maybe that was what happened or that went wrong in the first try. Honestly, I've never been in a rebranding situation. I have been launching new projects and working for the people is what best works for me. Giving people what they need, not necessarily what I need, what I want to give them. Listen to your audience and give them what they need. For example, when I worked at Vice, this was a new channel. There was no team. We were working 80% translations and 20% original content. People were disengaged with this content. They didn't care what was going on in other places. They needed to know what was going in their city. Once we changed that percentage to 80% local content, 20% translated content, engagements just went sky up the rocket. I mean, like, it was so immense. And it was just because we were listening to people. Like, they were saying, we don't want to know about this person in the UK. We want to know how this affects in our region. Okay, let's go and find the people in our region. So my advice would be, if you're rebranding, this is a great opportunity to not just listen to the business case, but listen to the audience and build on that. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much as well. It's a wonderful presentation, and your advice and other things will be taken care of here. And dear participants, the poll was enabled now. Please poll form as well to know the feedback.
Awesome. I'm leaving here my data. If you have any further questions, just feel free to reach out into my email account or just find me by my name on LinkedIn. This is not promotion, I promise. They didn't tell me to say this. I do use LinkedIn to connect with people. So feel free to reach out and just send me an email, and I'll be happy to.
Okay, dear participants, please note the contact details of Ms. Val. So if you have any queries or doubts, you can check with her later also. Thank you, Ms. Val, for participating in this 5th Global Digital Marketing Summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you.